When police were called to Sue's clothing at Thornton, they almost knew what to expect. It was the second time the gang had raided the shop in 6 weeks. Last time they smashed a window. This time they backed a vehicle through a metal security screen, smashed the display window and grabbed dozens of leather jackets and skirts valued at more than $8,000. The robbery at about 3 a.m. took just minutes, the work of professionals who chose their target and worked to a plan. Police are building up an alarming pattern of similar thefts throughout the Hunter. They believe the same people may be responsible for a string of robberies, supplying an illicit market for fashion clothes. December 1989, Roger David at Charlestown, leather jackets, total value $40,000. March, Roger David's again, more jackets, similar value. May, John Bryson motorcycles, then on the same night, Jesmond motorcycles. Leather jackets and cotton wax jackets, value several $1,000s. Sports Cycles Adamstown, more jackets. Ragged Designs Newcastle, leather jackets and skirts worth thousands of dollars. June, Sue's clothing at Thornton for the first time, leather jackets and skirts, $10,000. RJ's Yarn Barn, Morpeth, Angora and Wool Fashions, $10,000. And finally, Faze Fabrics Maitland, material worth $9,000. The leather goods stolen from Sue's clothing were brown, black and grey and all carried the Vanetti label. Police believe the thieves used a white utility, but they'd like to hear from anyone who saw any vehicle or people acting suspiciously around this store or any of the others. If you believe you can help police, call them now on the Crime Stoppers number 008 251 009. There is a $1,000 reward paid anonymously for information leading to an arrest. The number is 008 251 009.
Just before midday, a man wearing a balaclava and armed with a revolver strolled into the Warners Bay National Australia Bank. While his partner waited outside in a getaway car, the bandit quickly went about his job.
Confronted the tellers there with the weapon, which was quite visible, and then took the money.
The pair escaped with several $1,000s, setting off an intense police search. Within 20 minutes, this 1978 Ford Falcon was found dumped just 3 blocks away, behind an unoccupied Queen Street house. Detectives dusted the car for fingerprints and questioned neighbours for new clues. Charlestown police have called for any person who may have been in the area and seen the men to please contact them. The bandits have been described as a man in his 20s, 185 centimetres tall, wearing a blue spray jacket. The other man, the driver, is in his 40s, wearing glasses and a grey-brown sloppy Joe. Today's robbery is the second in Warners Bay in 5 weeks. Last month, the Westpac Bank, just down the road, was robbed. 2 people have been charged in relation to that crime. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It was rehearsal time in West's main auditorium this afternoon as the orchestra and Grace Knight prepare for tonight's sellout concert. 950 people have booked to hear Grace sing songs from the ABC TV series Come In Spinner. Grace is better known as lead singer with rock band Eurogliders, but the soundtrack from that TV series is the best-selling album ever produced by the ABC.
Grace, what's it like to play before with an orchestra that size behind you live? I guess it's a rare experience these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit scary actually for me, because I'm used to playing with a 6-piece band, Eurogliders. But it's fantastic. It's a real sort of very vibey sort of thing to do. It's very exciting.
All of this has, of course, come from the success of the ABC TV series. That was your acting debut. That would surprise a few people that it was your first venture into TV.
Yeah, it surprised me too. Yeah, that was fantastic. It was a lot of fun and something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and something I'd like to continue doing.
What they teach you, so that's how you know how to... No, it's a balcony out there.
One goes off in the ring.
These happy young Australians appear to live normal lives, except for one point. Each day they need 2 or 3 insulin injections to stay alive. Juvenile diabetes is being discussed at a special seminar in Newcastle this weekend, giving parents the latest information on the disease. It affects 1 in 700 children when the pancreas fails to make insulin needed for producing energy, healing and growth. While there is no cure for diabetes, technology has lessened its drastic effect on children's lifestyles. Tiny machines can be carried in the pocket to test blood sugars, and instead of carrying a syringe, this pen needle gives a child more confidence in public. The main theme is diabetics can lead normal lives.
As they go through life, they become more determined, more self-disciplined and self-reliant, and therefore they can do whatever they want to. There are very few restrictions placed upon them.
Arbor Day is set aside each year for the planting of trees and for the promotion of their care and value to people. To mark its 100th year, native shrubs and trees were given away in the leafy surrounds of Civic Park. Council nursery workers gave tips on planting and were nearly bowled over in the rush of green thumbs eager to take a small street tree home. This year's theme is For Every Child a Tree. Newborn babies will receive a voucher entitling them to a tree of their own.
We've got a tree planting program that's been going on for many years, and of course in the life of this council with our Greening of the City program we've accelerated that, but this is a tree for every family and particularly for every newborn baby.
These young men may be the future pilots for Malaysia's international carrier MAS, but they'll be learning their skills in the land of the flying kangaroo. 18 cadets from 18 to 34 years of age are based at the Civil Air Training Academy at Cessnock. They're starting from scratch with basic flying skills through to their commercial licence and instrument ratings. According to the students, training facilities in their home country are booked out. And rather than waiting on standby, MAS has sent their new cadets to Cessnock.
It's probably one of the best training schools in Australia. I suppose that's why we're here.
It's costing MAS $40,000 per student, but within 50 weeks they'll have 18 new second officers ready to take to the skies.
The Knights looked relaxed as they faced the media for the last time before the Penrith clash. Coach Alan McMahon has gagged his players in an effort to focus their concentration on their bid for a top 3 spot.
Well, it is pretty important, yeah, you know, and we just sort of like asked the media if they wouldn't mind if they wanted to talk to the players or wanted some photographs of the players, if they wouldn't mind sort of like doing it tonight, we'd appreciate that. And so that would leave, say, like Thursday and Friday for us to get about what we have to do. And thankfully all the media have agreed to that, so just makes the preparation a little easier.
But the game's importance and the Knights' super form wasn't enough to earn the match of the round status. The Manly-Brisbane game has somehow been given preference over the clash that could well decide the makeup of the final 5. Captain Michael Hagan is philosophical.
It depends on how you look upon a game, I suppose. The people that adjudicate on which game should be the match of the round may not agree with our style of play at times, but I think there's not too many disappointed fans leave the IC when we play at home.
The great news for Knights fans is that NBN will be showing a full replay of the Penrith game at 10:20 Sunday night.
It's a problem which has spilled from the sidelines onto the field of play with alarming regularity. Over-eager parents barracking their children on to greater feats of competition and aggression have taken to the fields themselves to settle disputes between young players or to disagree with referees' decisions. It's a trend which has sounded alarm bells with the Lake Macquarie Sports Council, and it is about to step in with a code of behaviour for junior sports.
Well, the most radical one would be an absolute last effort sanction of banning the child from that sport, and hopefully, take the parent out of the business first.
It's an idea which has the unanimous support of the 27 different sporting organisations which make up the council, and it also has the backing of the Hunter Academy of Sport. Alan Davis says the problems inflicted on children at play by aggressive parents go beyond the sports field.
It goes beyond the sport. It causes the kid to drop out of sport if he can't match the expectations the parents put on him, and I think it has an effect on his later life when it would affect his confidence, and that to me is a major concern.
Youth sport in the Hunter got a vote of support from the state government today with an announcement of grants totalling almost $4,000. The grants are available to sports people under the age of 18 living outside Sydney. It's hoped the money will help narrow the distances between outstanding country sports people and their ability to get to the metropolitan venues of top competition.
The Newcastle Sports Ground has hosted some mighty sporting events, and its stands have held thousands of fanatical supporters. Today, that seems hard to believe. Empty stands pelted with rain are rarely inspiring, but serious earthquake damage has made these frankly dangerous. The biggest losers are the fans.
We already know that we've lost the Sheffield Shield game next summer. We also know that we've lost the English touring side game here, so they're two major matches which we've already lost, and no doubt there will be others that we're going to lose, so it's a major devastation at the present time, and we've got to address the issue.
The Hunter Sports Support Group is determined to see a new 2,000-seat complex built before the summer of '91. Last night, members showed a council committee their plans. The price tag is a hefty $5 million, but they're confident the proposal will attract the necessary support.
Well, we've already had preliminary discussions on both state and federal levels. We're confident that both those governments will give some assistance. Just to what extent, we're not sure at the present time. There are also, of course, other avenues available. We haven't yet looked at the corporate sponsorship area.
Lord Mayor John McNaughton has given the idea a cautious stamp of approval and is now concentrating on coaxing first-class cricket back into the city this season.
Number one sports ground is badly damaged by the earthquake and we can't use it, but we have other fields that can be really put together well enough to handle it extremely well, and I think it's a gesture on their part for our assistance that we'll get a very sympathetic hearing from.
It has a great location in the city centre overlooking the foreshore park. It has historical significance, built in 1885 to house the railway's top man in the north. The architecture is late Victorian, but it's been unoccupied for so long that it's in a serious state of disrepair. Newcastle Council is trying to work out what to do with the station master's residence in Scott Street, since it was handed the house and land by the state government. A special study presented last night recommends the historic landmark be leased as a private residence.
It's in no worse condition than a lot of other buildings are at that age, in that some of its roof needs replacing, some plaster needs replacing and some flooring. But in buildings that are over 100 years old, that's quite common. But in this instance, of course, it just looks very dilapidated.
It's what your real estate agent would describe as a renovator's delight. Newcastle Council was told last night it'll have to spend $100,000 just to stop the building from decaying any further. And building industry sources we spoke to today put the cost of renovation at anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000. All that for a property which would only be leased and not owned by the potential developer. There are also strict restoration guidelines proposed and a recommendation that the building not be put to commercial use.
As a residence, the demands on it as a building are not so strenuous. If you were to have a commercial use, they suffer changes more quickly than residences, and they may wish to expand, and they would of course want to invest a lot of money in it and then need to chase that investment.
Newcastle's Director of Planning Services today recognised the difficulties with the leasehold proposal. Gary Fielding says Newcastle's housing market is very different to Sydney. He says council may have to offer the building and land with a freehold title, as government funding would fall short of what would be needed to restore the old home. However, he agrees that the nearby Paymaster's office could easily be repaired to become a headquarters for the archaeological digs planned for the next 2 years. John Church, NBN News.
Kemkhan recently set up a pioneering environmental protection committee as part of an out-of-court settlement with residents group Central Coast Against Chemicals, who were taking the company and Wyong Shire Council to court over alleged breaches of planning law. Last Friday's spill saw that new liaison spring into action. Today, members of the residents group inspected the spill site. Around 1,000 litres of contaminated water spilt here, but an advanced stormwater system contained it to the first flush pond. It was then pumped into the storage reservoir.
Without that type of system, I guess we could have been in a position like some of our other companies in our industry, not being able to contain the spill.
Independent tests have shown that there was no pollution to adjoining wetlands. State Pollution Control Commission tests are due back early next week.
The driver of the tanker tried to negotiate a too tight a turning circle and resulting in the tanker tipping over at an angle of about 45 degrees. By the same token, the tanker shouldn't be permitted to, even in those circumstances, be allowed to do that, and we're endeavouring to ensure that'll never happen again.
But the residents' groups say they were warned that this sort of accident could happen.
Just a few days before the accident happened, one of our committee members used to work for Kemkhan, and he was just talking about this tanker and saying how he used to have to jig it up and put blocks under it and how it didn't have a good enough turning circle, and he was always concerned that it might tip over and that it would be a catastrophe because you have a cocktail of chemicals in it.
Well, we certainly feel that we need to be honest with these people to show them what we're doing on site here. We can run our business in an environmentally safe and secure way, and I think it's up to us to prove to these people that we can do that, and I think they've shown willingness to participate in this scheme with us, and we're quite proud and excited about that eventuality.
It was pointed out to the Minister that inner city redevelopment is stalled until the Honeysuckle project gets underway. But Mr Baird could only say one thing about a start date.
So the short answer is, I honestly don't know.
It was left to Economic Development Council Chairman David Boyd, who pointed out that a proposal has been put to the Development Minister, Mr Hannaford, for the state to provide working capital.
I've put it to him in writing. I've got to wait and see. I can't preempt the Minister and the Premier's decision, but I'm fairly confident.
On the subject of railways, Mr Baird told the gathering that electrification of the line to Muswellbrook is unjustified in the present economic climate. However, he said the coal industry might have a different view. This was backed up by David Boyd, this time speaking for the Coal Chain Council.
If the numbers indicate that electrification can reduce coal freight rates in the long term, then the coal industry will go for it. If they don't, then it'll have to wait for a later study.
The Transport Minister also concentrated on Newcastle Harbour today, saying full autonomy for the Hunter Ports Authority is on schedule within the next 3 years. But another announcement may bring mixed feelings for Stockton residents, because only our ferries are small enough to navigate under the Iron Cove Bridge in Darling Harbour. One of them will be sent to Sydney to be replaced here by a water taxi.
We would have to order a completely new ferry at the cost of several $1 million. As we had one sitting up here tied to a wharf most of the time, it didn't seem to make good economic sense.
The government has made its decision because it says patronage is down 17% and one of the ferries is tied up for most of the time. Mr Baird said that the off-peak hour water taxi service will have the same fare structure as the present ferries and won't inconvenience the paying public. The federal member for Newcastle, Alan Morris, described the move as outright theft, saying the ferries Shortland and Hunter were built with Bicentennial Roads program money and 2 are needed for breakdown backup. On the plus side, we'll be getting another tug. The Carrington Slipways built Eva Burrows will be coming to Newcastle permanently as a firefighting tender in the harbour. The 4 privately owned operational tugs will not be affected. Mr Baird ended the day with a waterborne tour of inspection of various parts of the harbour, currently the subject of development plans.